You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, we're coming here with another great podcast. We certainly appreciate you guys tuning in. We say that every show, but we really do mean it. From the depths and the bottoms of my heart. Wait, there's only one heart. At least that's what I thought. I don't know. From the depths and the bottom of my heart, we really do appreciate it. Plus, guess what? I've offered this special. If for an unlimited time, you can go to youtube.com and freely subscribe to the show. Hit that bell notification, and we accept you as part of the Chris Voss Show family. It's a cult, but we don't have any like weird things that we do other than we just accept you for who you are. And so you get unconditional love from the Chris Voss Show, or at least we unconditionally accept you. I don't know what that means. Anyway, I don't know. Talk to your psychiatrist if you don't understand. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. We certainly appreciate it. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss. You see everything we're reading and reviewing over there. And I think there's a giveaway for one of my books over there still running. Also, go to all of our groups. There's like a ton of them on Facebook. There's a bunch of them on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. What is it? TikTok too as well. You can see all that good stuff going on over there. You want to follow the show. Today, we have an amazing, multi-talented author on the show, and she does a bunch of other stuff we're going to be talking to her about. She's the author of 16 books, and her newest book, Toe to Toe by Deborah LeBlanc, is going to be coming out. We're going to be talking to her on the show about her books and everything else she does. Her bio that we have here, I'm trying to pull this up. It's giving me a little bit of computer time. She hails from Lafayette, Louisiana. She is a certified, let me pull this over here. It's a certified master clinical hypnotherapist and master NLP practitioner. Does therapeutic imagery master and an MER practitioner. She's helped hundreds of individuals break free from debilitating limited beliefs and allowed them to experience success, joy, and realize fuller and happier lives. She also works with corporations, training CEOs, CFOs, managers, and sales staffs using groundbreaking technology processes along with group hypnosis, so they'll experience massive increases in profitable revenue and growth. Welcome to the show, Deborah. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank
awesome
you for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming, and congratulations on the new book. It's a whole series of books that you do. So give us your plugs, your .coms, so people can find you on the interwebs and get to know you.
They can find my books on Deborah, and that's spelled DEBORAH, because you're either a Deborah or a Deborah. That's how they taught us in school. And so I was a Deborah, LeBlanc. .com for my new business, which is mindpaththerapies.com. And if you really want to hoot, I have a nonprofit that I created back in 2007, and its objective is to reduce the rising literacy rate in America's teens. It's called Literacy Inc., INC. And so they can go to literacyinc.com. That's not the fun part. We created a haunted attraction that we run every October. It's called FrightTrail.com. And we have scare cams of people that have actually going through the trail. One of them wound up on Ellen DeGeneres' YouTube.
Oh, wow.
It was so funny. This guy was just saying, look, he was freaking out. He said, my kid's called. It's emergency. I got to go home. It was so funny.
And where's that located at?
It's located in
Lafayette. 20 acres of haunted woods. Fright Trail. This sounds like my first 5 marriages. It's always those marriages jokes that work good. So this is pretty cool. So you guys host this is it still going on with it being Christmas, or?
Oh, no. We operate probably the last weekend in September, and then we close. Halloween is our last night.
Wow.
the 31st. Yeah.
There you go. So you guys will be operating next year and stuff. That's pretty cool. So you're pretty prolific. 16 books. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Damn.
16 books.
That's a lot of
And
books.
I started writing them when I was in the middle of, actually, I was in the middle of leaving vice president's position and jumping out on my own to start my own business, a business that did not exist in the U.S. So I left a 6-figure job to jump out in, it's like jumping out of a plane and going, oops, I forgot the parachute. But I just did it. I jumped out. And in the middle of that melee, I was brushing my teeth one morning, and I am an avid reader. But I said, you know what? I think I'm going to write a book. So I did. It was called Family Inheritance. And I said, okay, now it was written. After 3 or 4 months, it was done. What do I do with this? I was not in the author circles. I was just doing my thing. So I said, the logical thing is to get it to a publisher. They're all in New York, the ones that matter. Okay? Yeah. Or so I'd heard. So I started investigating a little bit, and it said, in order to get to them, you have to get an agent. Why? And why can't I go to them directly?
Just call them up.
Yeah, because my job, part of my job as an executive VP was I handled all of the major corporations. So I was used to talking to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. It didn't bother me to go walking to Simon & Schuster and talk to the main man and go, check this out. In fact, I would have probably done a better job than my agent did if I had taken control. Anyway, about a month later, I have an agent. A month after that, the book gets picked up. Now, it wasn't until about 6 months later and 2 books later that I realized from other authors that they were all sitting at home with 4 books that never got published. Because the thing is, you never get your first book published. And you can't ever publish a book with a prologue because that's a faux pas. And you can't have different points of view that kind of move with each different chapter. Well, I did all 3. I had a prologue. I had 4 main characters. And, I just told my story. So when I tell that story to authors, they're like, okay, who did you sleep with? Or who are you related to?
That's hilarious.
I was just too naive to know that's not how the process normally worked.
That's the best way to go around it, though, is not being limited by whatever the rules.
Not being afraid.
So what is the genre of most of the books that you write? I'm looking at a whole mess of them here. The first one looks like it was based in Louisiana. Are most of them based in your area?
Yes. Most of them are. It's because I know the rhythm of the language, of the people here. If you go to Lake Charles, people act and talk a certain way. If you go to Baton Rouge, it's more metropolitan. You don't have as much of an accent. If you come to South Central Louisiana, you're really going to get the accent and you're going to get the attitude. Now, if you go to Shreveport, which is in very north Louisiana, that's a different state as far as we're concerned. You're above I-10. Okay, that doesn't count.
It's a whole new place.
It is. It's a whole new state. So everything is based around what I know. It's as if you were born and raised in Chicago. And I tried to write the main character's point of view from Chicago. You would know instinctively that I was nowhere around Chicago because people in Chicago don't do that. I would have had to spend some time out there and really do a lot of research from people who were from that area.
So you've written all these books. It looks like you did a little bit of romance. Is there a theme that runs through them?
Yes, all of them are paranormal. all of them, except for the Tinkerbell theory. The Tinkerbell theory is people have always asked me, I can write 3 books at one time.
Oh,
And they
wow.
all asked, how? So in that book, it tells you how. I give them a step-by-step process to go through.
Uh-huh.
The thing is, the most important thing is you've got to keep your butt in the seat and your fingers on the keyboard. You can't keep clean. That closet can only be cleaned so many times.
Yeah. Got to keep typing. I've been there.
That's right.
I've been there. You lock yourself down. And then I remember when I wrote my first book this year, there was I was cramming and I stayed home over the 4th of July weekend. And I'm going to use these 4 days to just write 8 hours a day or something. And by the end, I think I was losing my mind. I was dieting at the same time. I was doing intermittent fasting dieting.
Yeah.
So not only is my blood sugar low, I'm like spending 8 to 12 hours a day in front of the computer. I think by the time I was done, I was ready to start writing like The Shining, all work and no play. And in the meantime, I'm getting these social messages from my friends. We're at the lake having fun. Where are you? And I'm like about ready to murder myself. And so there's that. You've got the new book out. Do you want to give it some plugs to talk about a little bit?
A culmination of a lot of things that I've been involved with. I worked in funeral service for a while as a management consultant.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to become a funeral home consultant, you really have to get your hands dirty. It was a man's business. You had a grandfather that handed it down to his eldest son, who had handed it down to his eldest son. And if there was no eldest son, then it was his brother's oldest son. You get it? Very few women were in. For me to be heard and for them to understand that I knew what they were going through, I had to learn the business from the ground up. That is not a pun. I had to I pulled floaters out of the river. I've helped with embalmings, with autopsies, the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
I knew funeral service backwards and forwards. And I'm familiar with mediumship. Of course, very familiar with paranormal investigations because I've done it for 25 years. It started off as a whim and wound up an addiction. So all of that is combined in that book.
Wow. So is it like a biography sort of thing or a memoir?
No, it's not. It's about this young woman. She's about 32, if I could only. And she is psychic. She's a medium, but she doesn't want anyone to know. Her best friend, however, does know. That's the only person on the planet who knows. She loses her job at a t-shirt factory in a small town of Louisiana, and now she's got to find a way to make money. The only place she could find to get a job was at the Feed and Seed, hauling sacks out of a truck into the back of the warehouse for minimum wage. Well, she wasn't going to go that route, so she had to do what she dreaded all of her life. That was going to work for her family in the funeral home. Okay,
oh, wow.
That's something she avoided all her life. So she asked her father, she said, look, this is temporary just until I can get another job. She's working at the funeral home, and it just so happens that her boyfriend, who died 8 or 9 years prior in a boating accident, she can see. He's around her all the time.
Oh, wow.
Creating chaos all the time.
What a
messing
jerk
up
boyfriend.
Dates. Yes. Messing up dates.
Well, that'll definitely mess up your dates and your love life.
Yes. She is invited by a friend, not invited. She's coerced by a friend to come with them on a scouting adventure they were just hired for. $500 a pop. If they could find a haunted location that was valid, that this production company could actually send a film crew to. And her friend knew that if Nonie, which is her name, said, there is something we might want to set up here, that she knew Nonie had seen something. So through all this chaos, they follow her home. The ghosts she comes up with follow her home. They get into arguments with her boyfriend. She can't get rid of half of them. One steals her underwear. And so it is
one of those.
It's one of those. It is paranormal comedy.
Oh, okay.
It's a paranormal comedy.
All right. Well,
I had a lot of fun writing it.
what is the ghost going to do? I'm afraid to ask. He wore them on his head. That's not what you're supposed to do with underwear, but it is a comedy, so that works.
Especially as I described the character. And it's the professor he was with Michael J. Fox that did the
the time movies.
Yeah. He looked like him. So he was, of course, walking around with underwear. Now, other people saw this underwear floating through the air. They couldn't see him, but they saw the underwear.
My underwear does that if I wear it too many days in a row. Floats through the air. Kind of hovers.
Yeah, you get caught up in just making it as out there as you can.
Yeah. Any other details about the book you want to tease out?
No, you need to get it if you want to find out anything.
You want to get it? Order the book.
Because the next adventure takes him to an insane asylum, a haunted insane asylum.
God, this sounds like This sounds like all 5 of my first marriages again.
That was a lot of fun.
So now this is the same book, Toe to Toe.
No, that one is called Head to Head.
Head to Head.
Yes.
And this is a prior book.
No, that's the sequel after Toe to. There's 6 books. That'll be coming out.
Oh, okay. So this is a whole series that's coming out.
Yes.
So Toe to Toe is out now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
And then you're gonna have a whole series of
to follow. Head to Head is the next one.
Head to Head, leg to leg, arm to arm. Is that where we're going? You got to work all the body parts. You are in a morgue, so
I know them intimately. What can I say?
I've heard about the embalming process. I've heard about some of the stuff they do to preparate. What is that? Prepare the body. The one thing that sucks about being an author is everyone expects you to be good at grammar after that. So anytime I write something and my keyboard autocorrects, people are like, you wrote a book? You're an idiot. Which is why you hire an editor, of course. Let them clean all that crap up. But so what was I leading into there before I segued?
I just keep thinking.
Oh yeah, I was just asking about. That's quite the business. All the stuff they have to do to embalm a body and do body work and stuff.
Especially, there are a lot of times someone gets into an accident and there's damage to the face and the head. A really talented, I'm not going to say funeral director because not all funeral directors go into the embalming room. But a really talented embalmer can put a person's face back together. They just need a picture.
Oh, really?
Yes. And what they look like. But most of them just say, look, it's too bad. We're going to go closed casket.
I needed an embalmer to fix this face, and it's still alive.
I need Bondo. What are you talking?
I need a lot of Bondo. I need to just kind of squeeze. But I'll tell you a quick story. I had this old car manager back in the day named Don Seavey. Funny guy, little short Italian guy, and but really fat. I don't know. I'm trying to draw a picture of a short, fat Italian guy, but really funny guy, just a wonderful man, roly-poly sort of guy. He tells us a story that, like, somewhere in his youth, he used to fly single-engine airplanes, and he would fly bodies back to where they need to go. So if somebody died in Florida and they lived in Utah or something, they needed to be flown back there, he would do this with his plane. And so it was just him in the thing. And there was a lot of room, so they didn't have like a casket. They just have the body and wrapped up and stuff. And so he's flying this body back one night, and it's pitch dark. It's like middle of the night, full moon's out, lightning, I think it was. I don't remember. But he's flying the body back, and he just has this weird feeling the whole time, like something's looking at him. And he's I'm not looking back. I'm not going to let this get in my head. I'm just going to keep flying the plane. But he's like got this weird thing going on, like something's looking at him. And he turns around mid-flight, and the body has sat up in mid-flight.
Oh,
And I guess bodies can do that where their muscles will lock up or some sort of rigor mortis or something. I don't know. But this thing is sitting up looking at him, this person. And of course, it's still passed away, but he just about wrecked the plane. He said he just about jumped out of that plane. And it was in the middle of the night, too. I had all that going on. And here's this thing sitting up looking at him. So, yeah, I after hearing that story, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm never going into the basement of a funeral home. No, it's not ever happening. And I stay out of cemetery. Anything more you want to touch on the book? And let's talk about your business for the transformation business you do.
The mind path therapies. Actually, I had a business that I sold a couple of years ago. It was called Central Control Systems, and we monitored. It was a business I created with new technology that came out. It was called an ultrasonic gauge that would go inside a retailer's fuel tank. And it would be able to read the volume of fuel, also test for water content at the bottom of the tank, and read it on a ticker tape in the office. We were able to figure out a way to tie in remotely to these locations. And I didn't build it. I hired IT guys that knew different parts of, one knew a little bit about transportation, one knew a little bit about fuel, and the other one didn't know anything other than coding. So that was fine with me. They put together, I told them, I drew them out the system and how it needed to work. And we were able to create the first fuel inventory management company. We monitored retail outlets around the US and Canada. And I could tell them, my dispatcher could tell them, this tank, we could look out 2 weeks in advance. And based off of the throughput that had been going through the nozzles and the number of loads of fuel they received, we could estimate, the system would estimate when the next load of fuel was needed. So that business got rid of that business because, that wasn't always my dream. When I was young, I had my kids very young. I'd always wanted to be a psychiatrist, always. I wanted to help people. And then probably the reason is because my mother was a whack job, okay? She's been passed on now for 25 years. My dad's gone. I have a brother that's gone. I have a sister that's still hanging in there. Oh, is she ever? And where was I going with that? When she stuck in my head and I went, whoop, okay, we are told the business. Yes. I've always wanted to be a shrink so I could help people like that. I think my mother was never diagnosed. She was at a time when you could doctor hop and pick up. She was on addicted to prescription medication, but reality had it that I got married at 16, had my first child at 18, and realized by 18 and a half that I had married a bum.
Oh.
Yes, because he just could not take someone telling him what to do, even if it was in constructive criticism. He couldn't take it. So he didn't work. My kids were not going to go on welfare. When my dad and mom split up, I was raised in the projects. I know what that was like. My kids were not going to experience that. I wanted them to go to private schools because the school system sucked where we lived. So I went to work. I went to college and got a degree in marketing, went to work in the oil field as a salesperson, started there. Then went into transportation and then became the executive VP and so on. Then created my own company. Now I sold it. I said, I hung around the house for a couple of weeks and I thought, now what? Too young to retire. So what are you going to do? Retirement is not all it's cut out to be. It's not. I didn't know what the heck to do. I really didn't. You working for yourself for 25 years and then you think you're going to go park yourself working for the man? No.
That's true.
And they couldn't pay me enough.
Well, that'll do it.
So I had one day something just fell in my lap, and it's bam, a light went off in my head. It was to college for hypnotherapy. And it simply required a bachelor's degree. It didn't mean a bachelor's degree in psychology or any of it, just a bachelor's.
Mm-hmm.
And it was online. You did live courses, you did practicums, you have to do all of the hypnotherapy is done through Zoom. And it's really amazing how that works, because when I first heard of it, I said, there's no way. One, you are not going to be able to hypnotize me. And two, you're going to try to hypnotize me over Zoom? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I dare you. Well, it was like that.
Wow.
It was like that. And being hypnotized is not what the movies make it out to be. It's not.
Uh-huh.
But I realized then why I don't know if you've ever worked for other companies, and they would have an annual get together, maybe have some motivational speaker come in, get everybody all riled up, big rah-rah session.
Mm-hmm.
And for 2 days, everybody's floating, everybody's pumping it out. Boy, work is chunking. And then you're lucky if you get a week out of that. And then everybody goes right back to doing it the way they did before.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that? Why did that happen? When they were given such valuable information,
Mm-hmm.
it's because every one of us have limiting beliefs
Mm-hmm.
that live in our subconscious. And the only way you're going to change the way you do things is by changing something in your subconscious that caused you to make a decision that going this way instead of that way was a bad idea, because your experience somewhere in your childhood told you that.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been falling in a hole and busting your head on a rock. It could have been
that was
anything.
most of my childhood, yeah.
Yeah, it was mine too. Hey, but I found the ticket to why those behaviors didn't stick.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go into a corporation, I use group hypnosis.
Mm.
And I try to understand the CEOs and the CFOs' mindset. And because sometimes the limiting beliefs come from the ones who own the company.
Yeah. They set kind of the standard there.
Yeah, absolutely. There have been a couple of times when I've done my rounds, I've had a chance to talk to the heads of all the different departments and sat down with the CEO, and he says, so have you found the problem? I said, I sure have. He said, you're going to tell me? I said, do you really want to know? He said, well, that's why I hired you, because you just tell it like it is. I said, then, Jim, I'm going to tell you the problem in the company is you.
That's hilarious.
And he just sat there for a moment. Did she just say that?
Uh-huh.
And then I explained to him why it was a problem. It was his mindset that even though he told his people to do X, Y, Z, we're going to grow by 20%, and I want everybody to push, he didn't allow the systems to go in place to do that. He didn't allow himself to do it. I address corporations this way. I do public speaking. I've done that for 12 years. And that I enjoy the most. Public speaking is probably what I enjoy the most. And of course, individual hypnotherapy. I have a referral service for hypnotherapists around the world.
Oh, wow.
Because we're an international. Because of Zoom. I can have some hypnotherapy. Now, all hypnotherapists that come through us are vetted by me. I want to know where you went to school, how long were you there, what modalities did you learn, what's your success rate. If they can't tell me their success rate, they don't get in. Because if you're not measuring that, you're not serious enough about helping people.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're going to cure everybody that walks through your door, but your ratio better be 85 or better.
Oh, wow. That's
At
pretty
least
darn good.
Yeah, I have a guy that does smoking cessation, and if the person is really ready to quit, it takes him one hypnosis session, and that person, I can't count the number of people that have said they've never gone back to smoking. So I have a database where we put hypnotherapists that have been vetted into a system by speciality. And some client calls in and says that they have, let's say they're coming in, they have PTSD, and they are seeing a psychiatrist. We get the psychiatrist to sign over a form saying that he understands his patient is coming to see us. So we work together with the psychiatrist and then work with this guy through his PTSD. Or when I say we, it could be the specialist, it could be me, but it's going to be someone I know who's comfortable with working with PTSD.
This is pretty amazing stuff. So you do the speaking, you do the keynotes presentations, you do the referral business. Anything more we need to know about your business?
And the corporations, don't forget about that.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Working with corporations, advising them, consulting them, and things like that.
Yes.
And what is a therapeutic imagery master? What is that? How does that work? Practitioner?
Therapeutic imagery is taking someone who has disassociated from life, and this is going to sound weird, but it's their mind is disassociated from their body. They are just not connected. They're overweight. They want to lose weight, but everything they tried does not, and they don't know why. They've been to doctors, they've thyroid specialists, the whole gambit, and they're about to have gastric bypass. And they'll come by and they'll see us. Some of the gastros will actually recommend that they see us first. And we take them through an imagery journey. Through this journey, and what it is, putting someone in hypnosis, and your instinct and your initial consultation with that client will give you a hint at the root cause of their eating problem. And we lead them at the beginning of the journey and tell them, you're going to find X here. Now they're going to hand you something. We don't tell them what. They are going to tell us what. And I said, now hold on to it tight. What is it telling you? What does it remind you of? And 99.9% of the time, they will name the event, the date, how old they were when something happened and that set that charge in place. That caused them to emotionally eat, when their emotions got hyped up, or even when they weren't. You start eating them to soothe your emotions. If you're happy, that's an emotion. If you're depressed, you're going to eat twice as much.
And that's true. I've done that.
So imagery is used for certain things like that.
There you go. That's pretty cool. It's amazing, some of the different work you do. Anything more you want to touch on before we go out?
I think I've given you like 3 people's life story.
Yeah. You've done quite a few things in your life. Quite the adventure. 16 books and the businesses and all sorts of stuff. Give us your plugs before we go out so people can look you up on the interweb and all this stuff.
If any hypnotherapists are out there and want to grow, they just need to go to mindpaththerapies.com and hit the referral. Go down to where we have the referral button and click it, and it'll bring you home. And if they want to take a look at the books, they'll go to DeborahLeBlanc.com. If they want to laugh, they go to FrightTrail.com and watch the scare cams.
Watch people get scared out of their thing. You can watch those 7 days a year, 365 days a year.
Yes, you can. Yeah. We keep a scale of them for each year.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Deborah, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on and sharing your wonderful data with us.
Thanks for having me, Chris. It was great.
Thank you. And thanks, Monis, for tuning in. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss. Hit the bell notification. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss. See everything we're reading and reviewing over there. Also, go to all of our groups on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and all those different places. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other, and we'll see you guys next time.